Welcome to Jade Unscripted. Trigger warning, this true story contains themes of alcohol use, including underage drinking, mental health struggles, abuse, and other difficult life experiences. If you are sensitive to these topics, listener discretion is advised. Today's reading is an excerpt from a submission received titled A Dissociative State of Being, a Memoir. This is part 2. Let's begin. I was 33 years in AA, sober but lacking, when I hit the final bottom of clinical mental illness and explored the center core of self, including a degradation reminiscent of my drinking. That mental despair we call a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I had broken down to break through. I was encapsulated in a new, incomprehensible demoralization. No being, no physical, mental, emotional, nor spiritual cognizance. It was now time for a new journey, a comprehensive recovery. The activities of adolescent life triggered my chronic fears, followed by anxieties and panic. From the moment it was time to interact with others, extended family, the neighbors, church, school, and social activities, I was afraid of outside. Yet, as I progressed in my drinking, I had to be outside, and to stay abstinent for life, I had to be outside. How could a child learn about wine? Buy wine? Be a wino? It was in the 1960s, in elementary school, and of course, I didn't understand how wine alleviated my first despair, my delusions, and eventually the day-to-day shakes. As far as the power of drink through life, my reference point was my dad and the memories of AA. When I saw him drink, there seemed to be comfort. And when committed to sobriety, going to his meetings, a sort of relief that I never forgot. I too saw low-bottom drunks and heard their stories. Back then, they were hobos of sort. These hobos intrigued me. So when it came my turn to find alcohol, I knew my kindred kind and found them standing outside the corner store, bottles in hand. Ever so curious, I went back. Here, the birth of the wino began. In the beginning of this process, my family thought I was nestled in school. Curiosity peaked, or in other circles, the dragon was awoken. I'm passing by the corner store to prepare for nuances of each day, meaning the people and imposed scholastic activities. Who knew this conscious curiosity was an expression of emotions, joys, fear, anxiety, and panics, the underlying symptoms that I would drink about? Me, the wino. Each morning, the pre-addictive part of my psyche was claiming my place at the corner store. And one day, in unison with the adult compadres, I drank. Without a spoken word, we knew the first reason for being there was to receive a daily dose of nerves, courage in the form of drink. Later, I would learn about alcoholism and addictions manifest in complex ways. These winos, drunks, users of others, taught me how and what I would have to give up without complaint to get my drink. These lessons lasted until the day I became abstinent at age 23. Wine stayed my drink of choice, my companion in ways no human power could. This substance catapulted me into a state of numbness, aloneness, hopelessness, and despair, and took away a consciousness of dreams. The truth? Wine was the best thing that ever happened to me. And this low-bottom wine, which altered my humanity, my center, my core in good and bad ways, it's still at the market. And the knowledge of this lends to a sense of credibility to my pain, co-occurring disorders. Those obscurities of active alcoholism. Today, it is not so significant that MD stood for the manufacturer of the wine, and that the street name is Mad Dog 2020, a nickname, respect to the squelching powers to pain. What matters, it brings a sense of joy, a camaraderie with sober winos and drunks, a class distinction, as we laugh in unison to the name Mad Dog. We holistically understand the connotation and long-term effects, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual prices paid during years of consumption. That type of healing, elation, happens when attending an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting or socializing with other recovered drunks. The bottom shelf wine was my friend, a relationship, and it did not matter about the number of fancy drinks, expensive wines. MD 2020 was needed to block out the flashbacks, the unpleasant day-to-day realities. Also, I knew no reason to pretend a social status. These companions, hobos, would teach me what to expect at my age to attain a drink, and how to accept any thoughtless acts of abuse from all degenerate abusers, thus starting an oppression of sort. At the time, I did not know the clinical diagnosis of this psychic change. Now, I understand. This innate oppression was the beginning of my dissociative identity disorder. And after decades of resistance, I finally accepted, surrendered to this psychological plight. Yet, there was a long journey that brought me to this surrender, coinciding with the overt tragedy as the hobo taught. Amid these physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual assaults, the apathy to survive came forth. Show no fear, sadness, anxiety, nor panic, taking away a choice of fight or flight. Language I learned in recovery. These abuses were very violent, regular, and they were emotional, mental, physical, diminishing my spirituality, not my hope of faith, and kept me in a continual risk cycle. Both men and women perps accosted me. These attacks left me bruised and broken. Not familial domestic violence, since I was now a delinquent child outside of the home. And of course, I can say that familial dysfunction due to generational alcoholism and undiagnosed diminished mental capacity contributed to my vulnerability. Strangers were the offenders, inflictors. Whether or not family played a role is not the focus of my current process of enlightenment and healing. These horrific times left me abandoned in dark places on the side of freeways, while regimentally in suspense awaiting the next person under the guise of help. A ride. Is this insanity? Would they be villains or a caregiver? And I learned sometimes they could be both. These are polite terminologies of episodes that happened to me, and yet there was a lack of politeness and decency in these polyaggressions which deepened my layers of hopelessness and despair. Wine, indeed, was my medicine, my savior. Thank you to the sender for so bravely sharing your story. Your memoir is truly compelling, offering a glimpse into the origins of your journey into sobriety. To have experienced so much in such a young life, and to be abstinent from alcohol by the age of 23 speaks absolute volumes about your strength and your resilience. It is deeply moving. I am genuinely grateful that you not only took the time to write your memoir, your story, but that you also cared enough to share it with me and with others. Thank you. This is part 2 of the reading. If you're listening and would like to hear the rest of this story, please check out the other parts as well. Thank you again for sharing your journey with us. And thank you to the listeners. Until we read again, cheers.